So this is my profile. I have done a couple of bounties. The very first thing was this cal.com issue. ICS feed support for checking against double bookings. Cal.com is a scheduling website. Basically, you get a link, and if you send that link to anyone, then they can schedule an event in your calendar. It's super clean, super useful. A lot of people use it. I like it personally. And they are also open source. This issue was opened about ICS feed support. You have a lot of different calendar formats or ways to grab calendar events. You have CalDAV, which is sort of like a more managed server thing. And you also have a raw ICS feed that just contains calendar events and you can parse them and do stuff with them, as well as more managed integrations like a Google Calendar. Cal.com also supported CalDAV, but it did not support ICS feeds. Now, the thing is that these two are kind of similar. It was kind of easy to add this, and it struck me as a good first issue potentially. So I took a look at this issue. One thing that you may notice is that this is actually really old. So this was on Algora for a while before I came across it. It was added to Algora on the 9th of October, and I came across it in January of this year. So January 17th, I started my attempt, and I was worried because it's not really easy to get accustomed to a new code base that you are working on. So that was something that I especially wanted to sort of develop in myself, that skill to adapt to different code bases. But also more of a technical issue was to actually get cal.com set up and running on my machine. I was just browsing their README file about the development stuff, and I saw that they had something called a Gitpod setup, and this actually came really in clutch. So what Gitpod does is you can log in with GitHub and you can create a workspace of a GitHub repository. You can say, okay, yeah, VS Code, it's fine. You have sort of machine classes, and then you can open this, and it basically creates a VM for you that has everything installed that you need to run a project. It's really cool. Not every repo has this, but especially if they have this or if they have GitHub Codespaces integration, that is a really, really good way to just immediately jump into a project. So this is what I used for the first time. And then I actually went on to build my own solution for being able to do this with other projects that may not have this set up, but let's talk about that later. So if we take a look at my PR here, this was not really something that was super difficult. If I remember correctly, I did this in an evening. I actually took a bit to get around to it, but I would come home after school and just hack away on this, and then I eventually opened this PR. So if you take a look at this, the main thing that I did was I had to sort of look at how apps work in cal.com, where they are set up. They actually have some super useful tooling that will generate apps for you, but it's not really well-rounded. There are some things that it cannot do. So I did have to actually take a look at what's going on in order to find everything that I needed to get this set up. What I did basically is I knew that their CalDAV app was very similar to this one. So I just searched for it in the code base and I saw, okay, it's there and it's here and it's there. So I tried to replicate its behavior with my new ICS feed app. And the whole ICS feed calendar API is also based on the CalDAV API. So a lot of this stuff, especially this iCal parsing, is just taken from the CalDAV code because I was able to recycle it really quickly. I added this app, I did a little bit of testing, a little bit of UI I had to do for the actual setup page that the app goes through. And then we also have an SVG icon that I had to make. This is also based on the CalDAV icon. It's basically the same icon, but it said CalDAV instead of ICS here. So what I did is I just opened Inkscape and replaced CalDAV with ICS. But yeah, so this is something that struck me as a good first issue, not only because it was kind of trivial with the pre-existing functionality, but also because it was a good opportunity to practice getting into a code base. That's really what struck me about it. I did, of course, have to have like pre-existing knowledge that, oh, okay, because it uses CalDAV, it's probably easy because it already has iCal. But of course, if you know different things, then you can apply this to different projects and you can be successful there. This was something that I was pretty comfortable with. I've used iCal before. I've used basically everything in the tech stack of cal.com. So that's what really struck me as, okay, if I'm going to start with something, I need to start with this. It's been a long-standing issue. It hasn't been touched in a long, long time. If I fix this, some people are going to be really happy about it, which is always cool. This got merged. This was probably one of the most easy merge processes that I've had on Agora. I didn't really have to chase maintainers for this one. They just pulled it in when the time came. And just the ability to open this Git pod and not actually have to install everything on my local machine and clutter everything up, that's really what made me sure that I need to set something up like this.